Okay, great. Well, why don't we, go ahead and dive in. I know we're, we've got tight time and, big topic. Obviously can't cover everything in 30 minutes, but we'll try and hit a couple of key points that hopefully will have some value for you folks. So if we jump ahead, just a couple quick housekeeping items on the, well, let me first introduce, sorry, Meredith, let me first introduce who's talking here. So I'm Ned Calder, Managing Director at Innosight. I'm joined by two of my colleagues, Shari and Freddie. We collectively do a range of things that I'll explain, but main focus here today is we lead a lot of Innosight's efforts on AI. I've really, worked with a wide range of companies on helping to develop AI strategies, implementations, projects. So hoping to bring some of that experience today. Just in terms of housekeeping, really just 2 points. Don't worry about taking, screenshots or taking notes. We'll record this. Y'all will have access to all the materials and slides. We'll send around a link, after the session. We have muted participants just to avoid people, popping into the recorded webinar. That being said, we very much encourage participation. We've intentionally kept this to a relatively small group, so feel free to stick questions in the chat. We'll address them as we go, and also try to preserve a little bit of the time to answer anything that's top in mind for you all. I'm guessing most folks have some passing familiarity with Innosight, but on the off chance that you don't, so Innosight, growth strategy, firm founded about 25 years ago. We've got our founder here, Clay Christensen, really around the idea of disruptive innovation, disruptive change, and our purpose really is to help organizations who are trying to navigate some sort of disruptive change in the market, whether that's customer, technology, regulation, or all of those things. Obviously, I think it's probably an easy case to make that AI is probably one of the most disruptive forces that we've experienced for quite a while, and probably a top 5 one, ever. So hoping to bring some of our experience working on these types of problems over the last, 25 years and the broader, sort of pattern and associated with that to help provide some insight and perspective in terms of how to navigate the change that we're all experiencing. Next slide, please. I won't belabor this, but we've worked with organizations across industry, on all aspects of sort of the AI challenge, often starting with thinking through, what's our strategy, how does this can contribute to actually driving outcomes in the business and create value for our customers, but then, really working backwards to helping to think through all the things that need to be in place to enable that, whether it's, the business model changes, the technology, the data strategy, or the organizational and cultural changes that need to, go along, with it. We'll touch on each of these as we go through some of the thinking today and share some examples. So big picture, ambitious agenda for 25 minutes. Our goal is to try to provide a little bit of insight on 3 main topics. So one, we want to just sort of step back and look at the implications of AI as a general purpose technology and its ability to really impact all aspects of companies, business. So anything from customer facing to internal operations and everything, in between. And we encourage companies to really think broadly about the impacts that it can have. We also encourage, companies to think broadly about not just the near-term impacts, but the more disruptive changes that are going to play out over the next, 5 or 10 years, and have strategies and pursue opportunities in both those buckets. So we'll talk about that as a little bit of a frame, and then we're really going to dive into 2 sort of, timescale problems. So one is, how can we leverage AI, its capabilities today to solve relevant, important problems, in our business, and what does it take to do that well? We're then going to zoom out and talk about how do we not only do that, but also contemplate, bigger, broader changes that AI can enable, and how do we think about, pursuing those in parallel so that we're not left holding the bag when more significant changes come to our industries. So with that, I'll dive in and pass the mic to Shari to get us going.
Good. So Ned, you mentioned general purpose technologies, and the classification of AI as the 21st century's general purpose technology is really what frames its transformational potential. So what do we mean by general purpose technologies? We define them as very foundational innovations that have extensive use cases. They arise fairly infrequently throughout history. You'll see from the examples on the page here, we're talking sort of, one or two a century, really. But when they do arise, they serve as platforms on which innovation happens across industries. And through direct applications and indirect spillover effects, they reshape economies, societies, even geopolitics, even, our physical surroundings, how cities are designed and so forth. And of course, with all of that, that has an impact on industry boundaries and, really importantly, industry business models. We have all lived through and are familiar with the impact of connected computing, the general purpose technology that most immediately preceded AI. But to pick an earlier example of a GPT to bring across the implications that these have, think about the internal combustion engine and all of the industries and parts of the economy that this created and transformed. So we would think of the internal combustion engine as being responsible for over half of today's $100 trillion global economy. It created the petroleum industry, the automotive industry, the aviation industries, tires, drive-in movies. And at the same time, it sort of fundamentally transformed others, from logistics through to tourism, through to agriculture, construction, retail, really vast swathes of the economy, and not in an incremental way, but business models without the internal combustion engine in those sectors are really sort of not particularly viable today. And to come at this from a slightly different angle to really drive this point home, imagine a business model in your own industries and those that you all represent without any of these technologies. So to state the obvious, it would be, frankly, impossible to run an effective consumer goods or retail business without electricity powering production, the internal combustion engine powering distribution, or connected computing powering supply chain management. And again, it might sound obvious, but really, really important to grasp that, because AI is, much like these other technologies, going to become really core and foundational to winning business models in the future. If we can then advance the page, please, Meredith. So there's two ways in which AI will do this, and companies should pursue both of these simultaneously. So the first of these on the left-hand side is what we call Transformation A. That's today's business model, today's industry boundaries, today's competitive set and customers. AI is poised to let companies drive much greater efficiency and effectiveness in what they do today by implementing AI on a use case by use case basis. And this is where most companies are focusing today. Some forward-thinking companies are starting to advance to the right-hand side of the page here. And Transformation B is all about using AI to develop entirely new business models that were previously unthinkable. And to give just one example of what A and B looks like, I'll pick on the first example here, which is aviation. It's one that I'll talk about more in just a moment in the context of Transformation A specifically. But thinking about Transformation A, AI can help airlines optimize everything they do today, from automating contact centers with Gen AI to optimizing the servicing of aircraft during turnaround at the gates. But it also offers possibilities for Transformation B type innovation opportunities through things like intelligent agents that can design and book multimodal travel itineraries. So not just air travel, but also land, rail, other types of accommodation, experiences, and really craft completely custom to an individual or family an itinerary that sort of accounts for preferences and budget in ways that take out all of the effort of designing a trip that we're so used to managing through today in very manual ways. So transformation A, about optimizing the business model that you already have today with AI, bringing it into individual parts through a use case by use case approach. Transformation B, much more about thinking through, how can AI redefine fundamentally the business models, the industry boundaries that we're operating within today. If we advance the page, I'll talk a little bit about transformation A before I'll hand over to Freddie to talk about transformation B. So there's two broad domains for transformation A. One is about embedding AI in the operations of the business. So just to give one example, this would be, for instance, a pharma company using AI to accelerate drug discovery. That's a really, really important operational task within a pharma company. AI can dramatically accelerate it. The other, on the right-hand side here, is about using AI really sort of integrated in customer-facing interfaces, touch points, products, experiences. In other words, this is AI that customers interact with, and we all interact with AI every day, like Netflix's machine learning algorithms that learn about our likes and dislikes and recommend to us what to watch, or the computer vision in our iPhones that lets us unlock them with Face ID. I'll give one very sort of practical example if we go to the next page of what identifying use cases for transformation A within a business looks like. There's an awful lot on this page. To Ned's earlier point, we will be circulating the materials after the session. This is an example from the airline industry. And here we were trying to look at, within the business model as it stands today, where are there opportunities for us to drive absolutely productivity and cost out of the business, but also potentially greater revenue growth by integrating various different forms of AI, machine learning, Gen AI, computer vision, and also robotics. And asking really, what can each of those technologies do to unlock greater performance in various parts of the business? So what you're looking at on the right-hand side of the page here is the disaggregated airline business model that has broken apart the operational domains into their constituent components, from sort of everyday core airline operations through to commercial management and selling tickets and revenue growth management to the digital infrastructure. And then on the far right-hand side, the customer-facing domain. So everything that we as passengers experience and go through in our journeys, from booking travel through to being in the airport and on the aircraft, through to arriving at the destination, and also consuming non-flight offerings as well, like loyalty programs, ancillaries, and other things. And if we advance to the next page, Ned alluded to this point, which is that for most businesses, given how general purpose, how omni-use AI is, thinking about the opportunities to bring AI into the business is going to generate potentially hundreds of use cases, certainly far more than any business can possibly resource and organize around, even in a multi-year planning cycle, let alone in a single year. So then companies need to prioritize by looking at the EBIT impact, the feasibility, a particular AI use case. What's the degree of disruption, operational disruption to the business going to be? What's its consistency with our current state of digital maturity and data maturity, etc. And identify those which in the near term are going to unlock the greatest potential. And what you're looking at here is some priority use cases for an airline, all of which have been prioritized because they meaningfully drive either cost out or growth up within the existing business model. And I'm just going to pick on a couple. Using AI for predictive maintenance of aircraft, for instance, in the top left of the page here. That can dramatically reduce unscheduled removals of aircraft in ways that strip out cost by increasing aircraft uptime. Conversely, on the right, number 11, using AI to serve consumers in-flight personalized ads can drive greater revenues from more duty-free sales, more catering sales, etc. So just to summarize for transformation A, take your business as it exists, disaggregate it, look at the P&L, look at the performance drivers, and prioritize AI use cases that can have the greatest value unlocked. So that's just a little bit on transformation A. I know that was probably quite a lot to take in. We'll take questions at the end, time allowing. With that, I'll hand over to Freddy to talk a little bit about why companies shouldn't just limit themselves to transformation A.
Thank you, Shari. And yes, if anybody has questions, happy to start. Please start sending them now. We want to make sure we get to them, towards the end of the session. Happy to take questions on AI broadly or anything that's been shared so far. But as it relates to the framing of AI in terms of A and B opportunities, and as it relates to AI being a general purpose technology, there are certainly lessons from prior general purpose technologies that companies should be actively thinking about and leverage as they navigate the AI world. One of them is that the use cases for transformation A for companies tend to be easier to map if the experience from prior GPTs is an example. So for example, take the general purpose technology of the PC plus the internet, in which the incumbents usually typically only use it to optimize their core business. So take, for example, in the domain of hospitality, hotel giants, all they did at the beginning with the PC plus the internet is, let's take our existing business processes, apply business intelligence, or digitize our online booking services. And that's perfect and fine if you're starting to navigate a new technology. But one of the things that is considerably harder to figure out, and that these types of companies missed, is what are our B types of opportunities? So what are the opportunities to create new/disruptive business models that create significantly more value than just digitizing what we do today? So for example, as I mentioned, with the advent of the internet, hotel giants digitize things like their booking platforms, but they miss big opportunities like creating the sharing economy for hotel stays or for vacation stays or office travel, if you will. And at best, like missing this type of opportunity is a missed opportunity, and there's a big opportunity cost for not playing in that space soon enough. At worst, you're exposing yourself to disruption, which could have significant implications for your company. Identifying these use cases is actually quite hard, right? Like so envisioning things like Airbnb, eBay, Amazon, or if you're in media, like there's an intermediation of content and the birth of Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. Those are not trivial things and exercises. And one thing that we found helpful, and you can flip a page, Meredith, is a methodology and a mindset that we call future back to identifying those types of transformation methodologies. And we can we've had a lot written on this topic. It is one of our core approaches to addressing hard strategy problems. But if I were to summarize this, it entails, and how it would apply to AI, it entails three very fundamental things. One is aligning on the future reality and aspiration of what the world of AI is going to look like for your industry and your sector, and making sure that there's leadership alignment of like, where is AI going to manifest for us? Do we have alignment of which spaces are higher priority for us? Where could we see actually surprises pop up and emerge if you take a scenario perspective to this? Two is determining what are the big opportunities in that future world. Do we want to play in area A, area B, area C? And do we want to create hedges in D and E? But just making sure there's alignment on big areas of opportunity, not specific use cases or projects, is a big part of making sure that you have an AI strategy and not just a collection of use cases that don't really point you towards the future. And three, and this is quite critical, is making sure that there's a clear path between your current state and that number one future vision, future state and view of the world. that connects those types of opportunities very clearly. Oftentimes the challenging thing with AI is and naturally, a lot of companies are mapping how they apply AI to their business model today, and they have ideas of the most transformative things that they could do with AI tomorrow. But the connection between the things they're doing today and where they want to be tomorrow is not all that clear. And so if you could flip one page, Meredith, there are companies that are starting to think in this way of planting AI initiatives today that could turn into very transformative opportunities tomorrow. We have 3 examples on this page, 2 from the CPG world and 1 from the industrial world. I'll maybe share a little bit of what we're seeing in the industrial world with AI. So one company that is doing interesting things, something we think is quite interesting, is Siemens, where one of their big AI initiatives in 2023 was launching a partnership with Microsoft to start to think about what Gen AI for the industrial ecosystem would start to look like. And over the course of a year, they've launched what they're calling a Siemens AI Industrial Copilot that not only helps their industrial customers generate, optimize, and debug code, but it also helps with simulations of different natures for the vast complexity of devices that live in industrial facilities, as well as in the future, bringing Gen AI to all aspects of a shop floor. And you can see how, all these types of small, use cases that may be launching, whether it's code generation, whether it's simulation, whether it's bringing natural language interfaces to specific devices, could add up over time to a very powerful and scalable industrial platform for specific industries and automation customers. It's that type of logic that we believe is important for all companies to start to think about sooner than later. So the lessons of other GPTs don't happen to us and to all involved with this very important and powerful GPT that is AI. Ultimately, one of the things that we recommend and that we've been encouraging clients to think about is that, and if you can flip to the next page, Meredith, is that AI is a big portfolio question in which leadership teams are going to have to balance across a number of dimensions. Have we identified AI use cases that put us in a position of leadership versus those that are table stakes and we actually need to pursue because we risk deselection if we don't? And which of these use cases are operational versus customer facing, as Shari was mentioning? And 3, are we balancing across time horizons and making sure that we're connecting the use cases we're doing today with the use cases that are going to be important for us tomorrow? And we're starting to see, we have a few examples of the page across industries, whether it's life sciences, financial services, or CPG, how companies are investing on both sides of the equation, use cases that are table stakes, and use cases that could position them for leadership for this AI era. So, with that, we wanted to create a little bit of space. Maybe I'll park it here in terms of the content. And we wanted to create a little bit of space for questions, particularly with what you're all wrestling with regards to AI. So maybe we'll pause here and leave 5 minutes for questions before we wrap up the session. And feel free to use the chat, the Q&A session. By group. Maybe Meredith, we can tee up the poll that we had in the spirit of what we shared here today. And as you think about your own organization, one area we were curious is like which of the transformation areas that we've shared about today, the A that Shari talked about and the B that I shared briefly about, do you think your organization needs the most help with? So you'll see a poll pop up just with multiple choice. And we'd be curious just to get, you know, everybody's sense of like where they think their organization is. Okay. So it's interesting to see the distribution of, it's a nice bell curve leaning towards the B side, where folks think that they need the transformation B, and thinking about what are some of the big opportunities that are popping up is where you see help, but there's a fair amount of folks that selected either transformation A or both A and B as part of this. I don't know, Shari, Ned, if you want to comment any on the poll results.
I think really interesting. I think consistent, Freddie, with the point that you made that actually reimagining you know, your business model, your industry, its boundaries, your competitive set, as such a powerful technology comes into play, is really challenging. That's not to say that transformation A isn't difficult. Very often you can find answers for what to do around transformation A. You know, looking at peers, adjacent industries. If you're in CPG and retail, for instance, it's fairly obvious that you should go after use cases like pricing, like assortments, like supply chain management with AI. And companies that don't do that will in coming years find it tougher and tougher to compete with their peers that do. But really thinking about how is AI going to recreate and lead to very different scenarios in an industry like CPG and retail and others across the economy, that is a much more creative act that requires us to sort of you know, step back from everything that we know about the business that might not have changed for 100 years.
Excellent. For now, we want to park it here. Just thank everybody for joining. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us. You have your emails on the screen, and we'll be sharing the recording and the slides as mentioned.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.